Hello everyone. Today I'm going to be reviewing Star Wars The Phantom Menace, Episode 1 of course. Now, the reason I'm doing this is because for a long time now, I've been wanting to rewatch them all in order, and that's what I'm going to do. Today I just finished Episode 1, and I'm going to give it a thorough review and just give my opinions on it, because I love the Star Wars franchise. I had a hiatus with it pretty much from a couple years where I just stopped caring so much. But then episode 7 was announced, and I kind of I was like, what? I was taken back a little bit. I was like, wow, it's finally happening. And then I started to dive into lore and reading books and watch. I finally finished The Clone Wars. It's a great TV show, by the way. If you haven't watched it, I incredibly recommend it if you are a Star Wars fan. Star Wars: The Clone Wars, and while it does tamper a bit with the prequel lore, as if that's important, it's still a good series. It's really good. It's very well done. Tugs at your heartstrings near the end a lot too, and you grow attachment to those characters. Some people didn't like the prequels in a sense of the characters, and they didn't feel attached to Anakin or Obi-Wan or them. And the Clone Wars really makes those characters a lot more likable, and you care for them. It's compelling, and I just feel like if a lot of people, if you didn't like the prequels, give the Clone Wars a chance, because it's basically after and before episode 2 and 3. And it really sheds some light and makes those characters more enjoyable to be around and like. And, you learn and meet some new characters. And, it adds a whole new ton of lore to the canon universe, especially. And, I'm going to say this now. My opinion is biased. I do love Star Wars. So when I critique these films, it's going to be as a Star Wars fan. And I look at them as movies, too, not just Star Wars movies. I look at them as movies on their own. And they're still good movies. I do not hate any Star Wars film. I like some more than others, and I dislike some a little bit, but I do not hate any of them. And even the prequels. And we're going to get into that now. So, the first thing I'd like to say about Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, is it is not a bad movie. It's not a bad Star Wars movie. It's an enjoyable experience. There are some problems. There are a lot of problems, all right? So, while I was watching the movie, I was prepared to review it, and I did write down a lot of complaints. For one, the Gungans. God, the Gungans are annoying as all hell. I'm sure a lot of you know who the Gungans are. Jar Jar Binks is a Gungan. But I'm not just referring to Jar Jar Binks. Jar Jar Binks is a whole different topic. Okay, Jar Jar Binks is awful. But the Gungans as a whole, they're just an annoying race. Their leader, I forget what his name is. He's annoying. Where, he shakes it and spit goes everywhere. God, they're all just a nuisance. And the Gungans, they're there for a lot of the movie. So that drags it down. Also, the politics of the movie. And it's not like it's there for 20 minutes they're having a debate on politics in the Star Wars universe. It's not like that. It's just, it bogs the film down, and there are certain scenes that it's like, did that really need to be there? Are you just trying to increase the runtime, or do you actually think that we need to hear about trade routes and such? It's just, it gets a bit old. Another thing that this film has, and, I used to love George Lucas, and I kind of hate him now, and that may be a whole other video on its own, but this movie is incredibly racist. It has very, very big stereotypes for Japanese people, which are the Nemoidians. People like Viceroy Gunray, and all of the Nemoidians, they're just Japanese stereotypes. Pretty much everyone knows that by now. It's racist. It's kind of messed up. I expected better from this series, but you know what? It's cemented in the lore. It's cemented in the series. You can't do much about it, and just don't get offended by it. It's like, you could have just not done that. It would have been better. But what this movie does do right, does do something right, and that is it builds world. It builds a lot of the Star Wars universe. This movie, when it kicked off so much. It builds races, species, new worlds, everything. It really builds the Star Wars universe. It's a very big stepping stone. And while the originals are great, they're centered on one story. What I believe George Lucas wanted to do, aside from telling the story of Anakin Skywalker and Obi-Wan Kenobi, and all of the great characters in the prequels is he wanted to build the Star Wars world, and then that would continue on without him, and that's why we have the expanding universe, and now it's no longer canon, but the world still lives on. So this movie, very, very well, it does it very, very well. It builds a lot of character and lore. You meet all sorts of new species and people. You see like R.S. Singh in the pod racing section. You're like, oh, okay, it's just some chick. Oh no, she's actually a highly skilled bounty hunter, and you see her a lot in the Clone Wars. Things get expanded upon. I like that. And one thing that, it's just kind of annoying is Gooberfish. Gooberfish, Jesus Christ, that scene was awful with Jar Jar. Gooberfish, Gooberfish. God, that was... But there are some, catchy liners, one-liners, like, there's always a bigger fish. Qui-Gon, and that's another thing, is Qui-Gon Jinn is probably the best character in this movie. He carries the performances. A lot of the characters are flat. They're kind of, not flat as in they don't have any character to them, their dialogue is not very, they just speak like this and maybe raise their tone a little bit. Oh no, what's happening? No, but Liam Neeson does a very good job as Qui-Gon Jinn. He makes you care for him. And although he does die at the end, this is going to be a spoiler review. I figured that was obvious. These movies are old. But although he does die at them, you care. And it takes a lot to do that in one movie. You care a lot for Qui-Gon Jinn. And you do care for Obi-Wan is pretty good. Ewan McGregor, he does a good job as Obi-Wan in this movie. And he's not like Oscar worthy. It's not amazing, but he does a fine job. And a lot of people shit on Anakin in this movie, and it's not like he is the best child actor ever. Jake Lloyd is, he's a bit of a retard now, but he does a good job. He does an alright job. He says some annoying things. Now this is pod racing, but he's a child actor. Give him credit for what he did. At least it's not John Connor and T2. He's not squeaking and saying dumb things all the time. Anakin's okay, and he's like 9, so cut him some slack. I'm not gonna complain about that. Also, Palpatine is very flat in this movie, and although he is better in Episode 2 and 3 because you see him more, Palpatine is just kind of there. He's just kind of like he's there. So when you watch these movies again, you're like, hey, that's Palpatine. He's, and the Emperor. Hey, we're gonna see him in the next couple. He's kind of just there to look back on and be like, that's cool. Same with Samuel L. Jackson as Mace Windu. And one thing I have to say is they do an awful job with Yoda, in my opinion. In this movie, he's whiny. He is like, when you watch the originals at first, you think, wow, this wise Grand Master of the Jedi. He's so smart and he doesn't whine. He's a Jedi, but in this movie he does. He's like, oh, we cannot train Anakin. I do not agree with this. Oh, this is it's just like they did not treat Yoda correctly. It's better in the later movies. I haven't watched episode 2 in a long time, so when I go to watch that, you'll see that in that review. But in episode 3, he's a lot less like that, and in episode 5 and 6, he's also like he is, how Yoda should be. He's also a puppet then, not CGI. And that brings me to my next point, is the CGI isn't as bad as a lot of people say. When you first watch the movie and you get hit with that, the droids, and you see them, you're like, oh, wow, we're in for a treat, aren't we? It's not great. It's not Lord of the Rings or anything. It's just okay. It's just fine. It's acceptable. You can watch it and not cringe when you look at it. And also, later on in the movie, it gets better. I don't know if it necessarily gets better or you just get used to it, but as you go along, it's not as bad. I guess you do get used to it, and it kind of just fits the tone of the movie. It just doesn't hold up as much today. Like, you just look at droids, and you're like, that's just, it looks real, but it's not. It doesn't immerse you, because it feels as if, there's nothing there. It's just a projection. And that, that's what CGI is, but it's like, and I understand it. The movie's old. CGI doesn't hold forever, just like practical effects don't hold forever. It's just, I don't think people should crap on the CG as much when they talk about these movies, because while they do use an immense amount of it, a lot of this stuff they couldn't do practical. Now, the droids, yeah, I don't think they could do that very well practical, especially with the amount they use. But this also like back to what I said about world building. Naboo is beautiful. They did a great job with just how it looks. Battles are fun. Battles like when even when they're just cutting down regular droids with lightsabers and stuff. It's fun. It's fun to watch. You're not. It's not like wow. Oh my God. I just watched Pacific Rim, but it's fun to watch. And the fake queen, the decoy, she is the worst actor I have ever seen in a movie. She is awful in this movie. I mean, absolutely awful. She says her lines like, "Hello, let us sit down and have a drink." Literally like that. She does not put any character into that character at all. I don't know if that was supposed to be like that, but it is so boring to listen to her talk. And she is the queen. You're supposed to think she is the queen for most of the movie, and you know, she's awful. I don't care if that's how she was supposed to be. I can't stand that. I cannot stand when a character talks like this and has no emotion. And oh look, there's a droid. Hide, protect me. It's just, come on, man. And they also have some shots that are cool in the movie, but sometimes they just don't make any sense. Like, there's some dialogue that doesn't make sense. Like, when they're running to the ship on Tatooine and they just, freed Anakin, Anakin's like, they're like 20 feet away from the ship, and Anakin, they're running, and I don't know why they're exactly running anyways, but Anakin's like, "Oh, Master Qui-Gon, I'm tired. I need to stop." And then Qui-Gon turns around and is like, "Anakin, duck!" And then, this Darth Maul flies over. And it's like, the only reason he said, "Master Qui-Gon, I'm tired," is because they wanted Qui-Gon to turn around and drop Anakin so he doesn't get hit. And it's just like, they could have gone about that better. They could have gone, that's the thing with this movie, is they don't do a lot of things right. This has the potential to be a really, really good movie, and a lot of people consider this a stain on the Star Wars franchise. And it's just the way they go about things. They could do things so much better. There's a lot of that scene in that movie, not that scene in particular. Just things like it, where it's like, you could have done that better. You could have said that line better. You couldn't. There's characters that just, like, they kind of ruin scenes, like when you have people like Shmi Skywalker in the same room as Qui-Gon. You have Qui-Gon being very good. His character is very well fleshed out, and you care for him. And you do care for Shmi, but you only care because you care about Anakin. Because you only care because Anakin's Darth Vader, and he's the chosen one, blah, blah, blah. You only care because of the idea of mother and son. You don't care about Shmi on her own. She's not... the actor didn't do a very good job. She is also very flat. She speaks like this and makes sure that she says everything in short bursts and slowly. It's just like, Shmi is not very good. That's another character. A lot of the characters, the main cast is good, but others aren't. And it's like, you could do that better. You really could. And there's also just, the comedy is okay. It's alright. You don't watch a Star Wars movie for its comedy, but it is in there. You gotta have comedic relief in a movie like this. And I think the worst offender of this movie, aside from Jar Jar Binks, is the fart joke. I don't even, when I never remembered it. And when I saw it, and I was like, what, did they actually put that in the movie? They actually put a fart joke in Star Wars. I know it's one small, like, not even a minute, but it's like, God, Lucas, what are you doing? What in the hell? And, that was just, that was bad. But, you know what, we're wrapping this, I'm going to wrap this up here, I'm not going to make this go on forever, but the last thing I have to say is the ending of this movie, the last, 30 minutes of it, really picks up. The second act is, it's kind of slow. You're kind of like, come on, let's get to the end here. I want to get done today, please. But then the third act, and it fucking slams it. It does really good. The final duel, with Anakin, accidentally destroying the Trade Federation ship. it's really fun to watch. It's the duel is, it's sad, when Qui-Gon dies, and the choreography for the fights is one of the best I've seen. It's better than in. It's really, really good. It does not look scripted. Maul is probably the best for it. He does a really good job. Darth Maul is badass in this movie, of course. Everyone knows. Everyone says, "Oh, Darth Maul's the only reason I watch this movie." Oh, I only watch the pod race. By the way, pod racing is good. It just isn't as intense as I expected it to be. After I watched it, a long time ago, and I thought, "Oh man, pod racing is so cool." And it's like watching it a second time. It's not as intense, and it gets it more intense toward the end, of course, because of, Anakin. And also with the pod racing, Anakin is always, he's like, oh, my pod race is falling apart. So he's always doing stuff, moving his hands around, trying to flip switches, do this. That's cool. That keeps it interesting. I really like what they did with that. Back what I was saying about Maul. Maul does a really good job with his fighting, and just, when he's like, kind of cat-like, I don't know. He does a really good job. The fight is intense near the end, and although they could have done a little bit of better job with how he, quote-unquote, died, because if you watch the Clone Wars, Maul doesn't die, he survives. But when Obi-Wan flips up, and he's like sitting there for like a solid minute, Maul's just swiping his saber down at him, and it's like, geez, Maul, you could have done something. And then, he's looking over at the lightsaber, like Obi-Wan's looking, and then the Maul's like, he doesn't even take notice to that. He's like, oh wait, I think he might try to jump and get Qui-Gon's lightsaber. Whoa, he doesn't even try. He just like sits there and stares at Obi-Wan for like a minute. And then Obi-Wan, he jumps up, and for some reason Maul doesn't just cut him midair like Obi-Wan did to Anakin in episode 3, but he just like stands there, watches, and then when Obi-Wan lands, he like follows him as he lands, lightsaber in hand, ignited, staring at Obi-Wan as he's jumping over him and landing, makes the landing, doesn't even try to swing. Obi-Wan just cuts him in half. Doesn't even do anything. He just like stares. He's like, oh, he gets that face everyone knows where he's like, oh, go, I've been cut in half, and then he falls in, and it's like, you could have given him a better send-off. That it was awesome and all, but come on, you could have done a little better than that, especially for Maul. I'm glad they brought him back, but overall, it was good. So, that's my review of Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. I know this went on for a while, but I had a lot to say about it, and I'm sure a lot of people probably aren't going to watch this review in full, and I'm sure, a lot of people aren't subscribed for movie reviews, but I wanted to do this just for me, and I do plan to do the rest of the series, and I'm not going to make this overlap with any of my normal videos. This will go alongside a video for the day, so if you're not interested in this, this is just going up mainly for me, because I wanted to review them. I wanted to have my opinion documented, and, maybe in the future I look back on it, But anyways, I want to hear your guys' opinions if you did make it this far, if you did enjoy episode 1, or if you didn't. Your reasons for disliking it or liking it doesn't matter. And I'm going to start watching episode 2, and I'll have a video later up today, or this will go with it. And yeah, my final verdict for this movie, it's a 7 out of 10. 6.5 out of 10. I'll give it that. It's fair. This movie is not awful as a lot of people say it is. And if you think it's an awful movie and you haven't watched it in a while, I really highly recommend you go back, watch it again, not be so, just like judgmental of it. Don't look at everything and be like, god damn it, they fucked Star Wars up. No, just look at it as a movie and enjoy it. And I want to hear your guys' opinions in the comments below. As always, I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you guys next time.